everyone, welcome to the third craft session on how to create wildflowers found at Mistral Nature and History Park. I hope you're enjoying the video tutorials I've created so far. Today's flower is called the Southern Star of Bethlehem. Here's a photo of the flower. The materials and tools you'll be needing are a ruler, 3 brushes, one for white glue and one for white paint and one for black paint, pair of scissors, Yoo-hoo glue, white glue, a green bottle top preferably, a small piece of cardboard measuring about 6 centimetres high and maybe a width of about 5 centimetres, some yellow tissue paper, black paint and white paint, a water pot for your brushes, and 2 carton egg boxes. If possible, it'd be great if you could find egg boxes that have this section that is closed at the top, and the other egg box can have an open section, but it doesn't matter that much. First of all, we're going to make our petals. So any young people watching, ask for help from an adult now. So take your scissors and the egg box that has holes through the centres and cut off the pieces that we don't need. Put those aside. So the pieces we need are these central pieces. So just going to, well, the easiest thing is to cut down the hole. Then cut down the middle there, and we don't need this bit. So if you cut rounded like that, I'll show you why soon. So if you look at the flower, I counted 6 petals, which is a nice round even number. So do the same for the other pieces, so we need 6 petals. So you will need to cut the other middle section. I keep seeing faces in these egg boxes. It's really weird. Look at like a face to you. So let's just take these 2 and another 2. It rips quite easily as well. And what we're after is, if you feel the piece, it feels quite curved, almost like a petal, and you can feel down here that it's quite rounded. So if you just trim the edge like that for all of them. So now we have 6. And I would cut off a little bit of the tip. So to get them all roughly the same size, I'd put them all together and cut off, I'd say about a centimetre or so, centimetre and a half maybe, there. And then just cut the corners and maybe round them off a little bit. So next you want to take your petal and paint it white. Well, paint all 6 of them white. So here you go. It's the fun bit, the painting bit. I always get paint all over my fingers. The best way to dry them is to take another piece of cardboard and place them upside down on the cardboard and let them all dry. So we also want to take our piece of cardboard that I showed you earlier and paint that white. And paint both sides. It will become obvious what this is being used for eventually. Now this is a bit trickier to dry, but the best thing to do is take your top that you cut off the egg box and place it in there, and set all your painted 6 petals and the little cardboard piece aside to dry. Next, what we need to do is remember the egg box that I said we need that has a closed top there. So if you just cut off the top, and that needs to be about 1.5 centimeters high. So again, just use your ruler. You can squash it flat. It's roughly there. And we want that to sit relatively flat. So if you press it together, you can see where it's not going to sit flat. So just keep trimming it until it's roughly flat. And we want to paint that black. So take your black paint tricky keeping this one on your finger, but it is possible. And set that aside to dry too. don't forget to pop your brushes in water so that they don't spoil. The next thing you want to do is take your yellow tissue paper and scrunch that up into little balls. So you need 6 of those because there's 6 stems on the flower. And you can keep these, it's quite handy to keep these in one of the egg boxes so that they don't get lost. So you can do this whilst you're waiting for your petals to dry. Hopefully they'll dry quite quickly. Right, so they have 6 balls of pollen. Next we're going to start assembling the flower. So take your green bottle top and your petals, which are, just make sure they're dry first. And put some yoo-hoo on the top of the bottle top. You always have to keep closing this glue because the glue keeps coming out. And try and look at where the flower petal, where the edge is, where you rounded it off. So if you just place 3 down first, like that. And then if you can see, I'm going to place the other 3 in the middle there. You might want to curve the edges up a little bit like that. Just make sure they're glued down. Okay, so let's leave that to dry a little bit for now, for the 3 petals. So take your piece of cardboard that you painted white earlier and across the long edge cut, we need 6 strips, probably around 3 millimeters wide roughly, just thick enough to glue down. Like that. And just cut them off. And then we want to fold one edge, one top, so that it's shaped like an L shape, and then fold the bottom in the opposite direction, like that. So that's the shape of it at the moment. And a good thing to do also is to trim the corners so that it looks like an arrow at the bottom. So do the same with all 6 of them. I think I cut off a bit too much off the last one, just a tiny bit off the corners. Okay, so that's all 6 of those done. We can try to glue the next petals on to the flower. So just put a bit more glue down. And glue the next petal in between. It's quite strong glue, this stuff, so you should be okay if you're gentle. So it's starting to look like a flower. So we'll just leave that to dry for a little bit and then come on to the next part. Once your flower is dry, we're going to glue the next bits on. So don't worry if your flower started to collapse mid-drying, just press your finger down in the middle of it, keep an eye on it whilst it's drying, and then press it down and hold it for a little bit. It should dry within a few minutes. So take your Yoo-hoo glue, and we want to put some glue down on the piece that's triangular. So we'll glue that on one petal. So then take your next one and glue that on the other petal. This glue can go all over the place a little bit. And then the other one can go in between. Okay, so that's 6 of them. So I'd leave that to dry for around 10 minutes or so. So I don't know if you can see that it's kind of sagging a little bit. So if you just press down and then they'll lift up, and try not to get stuck to the flower. Next, we want to quite delicately take the piece of egg box that you painted black earlier and put some glue on there. And then put that in the middle, and that should, and just press down a little bit. Okay. And then take your pollen and your white glue and paintbrush, and holding the middle as it's still a little bit wet, just dab some white glue on there. And attach your, and glue on your pollen. need to shape them a little bit as you go along. And remember that white glue luckily dries clear, so it doesn't matter if you get it anywhere you don't want it. And there you have it, a finished Star of Bethlehem. So don't forget to keep all your finished flowers safe in a box, ideally, so that they don't get spoiled. So this is what I've done with mine. These are all my finished ones so far. And we'll be making them into a bouquet. You see the white ones don't show you that much. We'll be making a bouquet with all of them on Saturday. Thank you for joining.